Hello, everyone. So, welcome to my brief discussion of intertextuality from a certain Swiss folktale or creature that I've chosen to compare some differences to a certain film. So, I chose the Undine Swiss creature, which is a water nymph, and an Undine is a beautiful creature living in waterfalls and forest pools. So, Undine was first mentioned by a Swiss author, Paracelsus, here. So, who put forth the theory that there are spirits or creatures who inhabits the four classical elements, which is the fire, earth, and air and water. So, like fire is inhabited by a salamander spirit, earth has the gnome spirit, sylph has the air element, which leads Undine as a spirit with the water element. So, but in this case, we'll only focus on the Undine, which is the water element spirit. So next, so the movie I've chosen is the third franchise of Shake, Rattle, and Roll. So this movie, the third movie consists of horror stories in different parts. So I'm going to focus on the third part, which is titled Nanay. And it has an intertextual reference to the Swiss creature Undine, since the Undine is the main antagonist of the movie. So this is basically an appropriation since they are reimagining or reusing the idea of Undine, but in a horror genre. So I'll be identifying the differences of the details, plot, and the creature itself from the Swiss tale and the film. So you can see the film there. So first of all, the physical appearance. It's very astounding because if you look at the images of both creatures, it's completely different. So for one, the description from the original myth states that undines are usually immortal female beings who are beautiful and has a wonderful voice. Meanwhile, in the Shake, Rattle, and Roll film, you can see that Undine here does not inherit a human body and is portrayed as something that is small, ugly, and slimy. Not to mention their powers. So their powers, Undines in the original myth does not really have a power. They do not have a soul. So their only gift is immortality. So and while meanwhile, the Undine in the film has the power to melt people's bodies, skins, and bones with its saliva. So which is a very interesting development. It's a very malevolent thing to do since the original Undine is very serene and pleasant. So I think the only similarity here is that they're both women and are both water elemental spirits. So like that's it. So for the plot, the film and the original myth have different plot points because the film talks about the mother Undine who had her eggs stolen unintentionally from her by students who lived in a nearby dormitory. So basically, this Undine hid in a cooler and bathroom toilets to seek revenge to students who harmed her eggs by killing them. Yeah. So while in the original Undine myth, it's more like the plot is about a beautiful and immortal water nymph that doesn't have a human soul. So in order for them to have a mortal soul, they had to marry a human, but then they will lose their gift of immortality. However, the mortal man also has his consequences. If he does marry an Undine, he will be fated to die if he ever commit adultery. So that's also kind of extreme. So the plot is completely different in both mediums, and I think the film with the most similar plot point to the original myth is The Little Mermaid, since they both talked about marrying a human and having a beautiful voice, but that's basically just it. And then we have the setting. The original Undine usually lives in forest pools and waterfalls. So that's like in Undines in the myth only leave their homes when they marry. And while the Undine in the film is satisfied with any areas as long as it has water in it, like the lake, the cooler, and the bathroom toilets, because they all have water. So that's mostly the differences I've noticed. And so, like, next, is there a new contribution of the adaptation in our time? So I think, in my opinion, I think it has a contribution because even though Undine is evil or is the main antagonist in the film, it actually depicted a message of how mothers would go to such lengths to protect their children, even to the point of killing them. So the viewers can at least sympathize with the Undine in the film. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but it's another perspective, another angle of looking at it, like the mother's love. So besides, even the ending was kind of wholesome because the Undine was able to spare Malloy's life since she has apologized. So I feel like that's also another lesson that the watch viewers can learn from the film. So I think that's kind of how I understood the contribution of the adaptation. So lastly, if I were to choose which is better, I'd honestly choose the original myth because of how it really resembled the Little Mermaid story by Hans Christian Andersen. And I'm not like, it's not just that, but it's beautiful. The plot is beautiful, but somewhat twisted in the ending. And I think it's very creative how Undines can be seen as a perfect creature, but with a flaw. So yeah, it's like they're beautiful. Undines are beautiful in the original myth, but they're actually they also have flaws in their own. They have insecurities, even though they're spirits, they're immortal. And mortals usually envy the gift of immortality, but that's not the case with the Undine myth because they do not like being immortal and they want to have a soul. So that's like I feel like that plot is more interesting to me. So yeah, that's basically the end of my video. Thank you for listening.